nice if we knew exactly what heaven looked like. There's many images we find throughout the Bible, starting in Genesis, where Jacob has this vision of going up a ladder to heaven with the angels and back and forth, all the way through the book of Revelations, where John writes about a new heaven and a new earth. But all we have are glimpses. We have people that have passed away, that were brought back to life, that have these images of what they saw in heaven. And most of them have been really warm and wonderful. And occasionally somebody said that it was a bad experience. We have near death, where people will see a light at the end of the tunnel, a warm, welcoming glow, but then they're resuscitated so they don't see where that leads. But the image we get is a wonderful place. A place of love, a place of joy, a place of happiness. But we really don't know. There's a lot of music to talk about streets of gold. Well, heaven, that's just paving material. But for God, it's greatness. And so, our text today comes from the 20th chapter of Luke. Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem. He's had many, many encounters with Pharisees and others challenging him, trying to find a loophole, trying to turn the crowd against him. And I can only think of one time in the Gospels where somebody got the better of Jesus. And if you remember that he was in Tyre, I believe, and this Samaritan woman came to him and said, "My daughter is ill, please heal." Well, I only came to heal to take care of the Jewish people. She responds, "Even the dogs eat crumbs at the table." Other than that, Jesus always got the best of the Pharisees and whoever was challenging him. But today we hear of a different group that's challenging Jesus, called the Sadducees. And from the 27th chapter, some Sadducees who denied there's a resurrection came to Jesus and asked, "Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies, leaving a widow with no children, the brother must marry the widow and raise up children for his brother." And this comes from a text in Deuteronomy. And they go on. Now there were 7 brothers. The first man married a woman and then died childless. The second and then the third brother married her. Eventually all 7 married her, and they all died without leaving any children. Finally the woman died also. In the resurrection, whose wife will she be? All 7 were married to her. Jesus said to them, "People who belong to this age marry and are given in marriage. But those who are considered worthy to participate in that age, that is, in the age of the resurrection of the dead, will not marry, nor will they be given in marriage. They can no longer die because they are like angels and are God's children, since they share in the resurrection. Even Moses demonstrated that dead are raised in the passage about the burning bush. When he speaks of the Lord as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob," and that comes from Exodus. "He is with the God of the dead, but of the living. To him they are all alive." May God bless our hearing of his holy word. Amen. The Sadducees only show up a handful of times in the Gospels. They were thought to be people around the temple, some of the more well-to-do people. And as our text starts out, they deny there's a resurrection. Why do they deny it versus Pharisees who say there is? They only looked at the first 5 books of what we call the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And none of those texts supposedly say anything about resurrection. So if it doesn't say it there, it doesn't exist. The Pharisees and the teachers of the law, the rabbis, and so on, also accepted the Psalms and the prophets and the wisdom literatures. There is references to resurrection there. I think all of us are looking forward to a resurrection at some point. We don't know where it's going to lead, but aren't we here because we have hope? We have hope for the day, but we have hope for the future. And that's a place where God will rule. Now the Pharisees had other problems with Jesus, but that was the one thing that they did agree on. Where the Sadducees asked Jesus this ridiculous, seemingly ridiculous question. Whose wife will she be? They didn't believe in a resurrection, but they said if there is a resurrection, it's Earth 2.0. It's just a continuation. And Jesus said, wait a minute, guys, you don't have this right. It is a wonderful place, but you don't need to be married. You aren't going to have children. Because what was the main purpose of having a woman in Jesus' day? Actually two purposes. One is to take care of the household, and two, to have children, especially having sons. And you won't need to have sons in heaven because God is there. He takes care of those things. We believe that there's life after death. How we get there, we trust God's grace and God's mercy. But I like Jesus' answer to them, quoting about the burning bush when God spoke to Moses. He's the God of, if he's the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, that's present tense. They're not dead. They may not be on earth 1.0, but they're in heaven 1.0. And that's where we will find ourselves someday. It's interesting to read some of the books about being in heaven and the wonderful experiences most have. And then they come back to earth and it's like, why did I have to go through this again? But it's a wonder, so those figment, little touches, tell us that it is a great and wonderful place. And how we get there? Through the blood of Jesus Christ. He's on his way to Jerusalem. And he knows what that's going to mean. He's going to the cross. But he didn't go to the cross for him. He went to the cross for you, me, all of us. And that's what it's about, is that God's grace is greater than all the things that humans can come up with. God loves us. Sometimes I'm sure he gets a little disappointed in us, but that's when he gets close. It's like your children. There are days that you probably would like to give them up. But when it's all said and done, know you love them. You wouldn't want anything to happen to them. And sometimes things happen, but that's life. But we never know where we're going. But we